Here at home, black tax is seen by some as a form of financial abuse. Others are proud that they are able to contribute to their families. Black tax is a colloquial term, of course, for the sharing of one's salary with both immediate and extended family. Well, tell me about it. Now, in today's Money Matters segment, we're discussing this sensitive issue. As usual, we are joined in the studio by our financial advisor, Maya Fisher-French. She knows everything about money. Maya, good morning. Welcome. It's good to see you in the studio.
Yes,
I know we get to talk to you via Skype or in the studios when you're down in Cape Town. Just your thinking around this issue. Have you been talking to people yourself? I mean, you advise a lot of people. You write a lot as well about all kinds of issues. Has black tax been on your horizon as well?
Well, when you write for City Press, which is a big black readership, we get a lot of this. And in fact, I remember one man saying to me, he said, you know, if you want to understand unemployment in South Africa, be a young black professional, because we're supporting so many family members. And I think it's quite important to define and understand what is the problem behind here. Is it, yes, there's a cultural thing, you can look at historical factors. But the reality is, when you have so many people unemployed in South Africa, the person who has the job is going to be supporting more people. So actually, what the critical problem is actually unemployment and solving that. But that doesn't really help the young black professional who's right now supporting mom, dad, sisters, cousins, and has all these expectations. And it's putting massive pressure on young people, especially those who are trying to get ahead and break that poverty cycle.
Yeah, because instead of saving and creating some kind of wealth for themselves and their families, if they are married into the future, they end up not being able to do so.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of other factors that are at play here as well. So in some ways it is about saying, oh, I've got all this black tax, but then you've also got to look at what are your priorities. And you know, I remember speaking to a colleague of mine who's sort of saying, look, I've got to support my family. I do have to help put my family, my brothers and sisters through university. I'm going to have to give up the BMW. So you're also going to have to sometimes look and saying, do I commit to this? Do I commit to investing in my family's future, which often is educational, and then perhaps not having the dream car right now, but postponing it? So I think a lot of it also comes down to your own personal financial planning, and not just blaming black tax all the time.
Yeah, but sometimes there are families where you cannot avoid it. I mean, speaking about myself, I've been looking after 3 households for many years. Besides my own family, which is my wife and my 4 kids, there's been my parents' family and my sister's family for some time while they were still alive. They've passed on. And there's my mother-in-law's place, because my wife is the only daughter who's still around. So you end up working out from this one income or income stream what to do and how. And sometimes it's expected and sometimes you can't do much about it.
And I think that, you know, one of the things that I find people find very difficult is to put down boundaries, is to say, look, this is how much I can afford to give you. Can you give me your budget? Because if I'm sitting here having to do a budget so that I can fit all these things, I need to see your budget. I need to see what's happening. And moving away from being an ATM to actually having a commitment that's in your budget that you know you're going to give, but then you're not getting these ad hoc things all the time. And in fact, we did something with Money Makeover. It's a kind of program that we run with City Press and ABSA. And one of the young women we took through, 26 years old, she had this issue of having to support extended family. And she looked at it, she put it in her budget, and she said to them, this is all I can commit to. And halfway through the month, the call started, and she said no. And the second month, she said no. By the third month, the call stopped. They recognized that the money that she was contributing was all she could contribute, and she had to put a line in the sand. So sometimes it is also about your own personal boundaries. But again, it is a reality. It is something you're going to have to budget for.
Yeah, there's another flip side to this. I'm just smiling and thinking about it. In many families, if you are the only child or you become the first child to be successful, and in many South African families, black families, you might be the first one to be a graduate. So you are successful, and they need you, the parents, to be proud of you. They need you to showcase that success in some way, in some material way. That can be very expensive.
So we actually wrote about that. It was on Sunday in City Press. My writer, Mapolo, wrote about this exact thing, where she said there's this pressure to arrive back home in a fancy car because that's the only way to show people that you're successful. And she said she had one young man who doesn't need a car. He lives 10 minutes from work. His father keeps saying, you can't keep coming home with no car. You're embarrassing me. And what he wants to do is buy an investment property, not a car.
Yeah, and there are many people I know, some colleagues as well, who would avoid going home in wherever the home is, whether it's in Limpopo or KZN or whatever during December holidays, because the other people in the neighborhood are coming up with these nice cars, nice things, and they can afford one. Therefore, the family is saying, "But why not?" You know. But I think the thing is, you have to set boundaries. You have to know what is within your limits, and you have to be open and honest with your family.
And you've also got to say, these are my priorities. Why, like Mapela was saying, why don't you ask me if I have an education fund for my children? Why don't you ask me if I have a will in place? Those are the conversations we should be having. And also, say, I'm investing in shares, because when I invest in First Rand, the CEO of First Rand works for me. And I think that's more about being success than driving a fancy car.
Very some sensible advice. Thank you very much, my Fisher French.